Hi, welcome to the Aftermath Tales. Ready for a new story? Very well, let's begin.
I stared at my phone for 10 minutes after she hung up on me. Just like that. No, how are you doing, sweetheart? No, we miss you. Just bring something really nice for your sister, and all I heard next is click. When did I become a stranger to the family I gave everything to? Was I wrong to pour my heart, my soul, and every dollar I earned into making them happy? I thought love was supposed to be unconditional. I thought family was supposed to stick together through thick and thin. But apparently, love has a price tag, and mine just got foreclosed on. My name is Lexi Potter, and I'm 38 years old. For several years before 2020, I was living the American dream. I owned a thriving architecture firm with 12 employees, a beautiful house with cathedral ceilings I designed myself, and a BMW that still had that new car smell. I was the golden child, the success story, the one who made it. More importantly, I was the one who could make my family's dreams come true. And why shouldn't I have remained single? I was so focused on building my business and taking care of the people I loved that dating never seemed like a priority. You see, I didn't just succeed for me. I had built my architecture firm from the ground up over 15 years of hard work. Every new client, every major project, every fat commission check, it was all for them. My parents, Bob and Connie, had me when they were just 18 and 19 years old. They'd worked hard their entire lives to give me opportunities they never had. Dad was an executive earning good money. Mom had worked various jobs over the years. But I wanted to give them more than just comfortable. I wanted to give them the luxury, the kind of life they'd sacrificed when they became young parents and never been able to afford, even with Dad's decent salary. I bought them a gorgeous house with the swimming pool Mom had always dreamed about. I surprised Dad with a brand new Ford truck, fully loaded, the works. Family vacations to Hawaii, Europe, anywhere they wanted to go. Shopping sprees where I'd tell Mom to get whatever caught her eye. Birthday parties that would make celebrities jealous. I lived for the moment their faces would light up when I surprised them with something new. My younger brother Brian gets it. He's 28 now, 10 years younger than me, working as a computer engineer down in California, and he calls me at least twice a week just to check in. Brian remembers that I paid his way through college when Mom and Dad couldn't afford it. He knows I've got his back. Always have. Always will. But my sister Tammy? That's a different story altogether. Tammy is 30, 8 years younger than me, and she's hated my guts since we were kids. Maybe it was jealousy. I was always the responsible one, the one who got good grades, the one who had a plan. When I offered to pay for her college, she looked at me like I'd slapped her and said she didn't need my charity. Instead, she ran off at 19 with some guy she'd known for 3 months and got married in Vegas. That marriage lasted exactly 4 years. Turns out, Tammy had been cheating with multiple guys, and when her husband found out, he filed for divorce and went after alimony. Guess who got the tearful phone call? Guess who wrote the check so my sister wouldn't lose everything? That's right. Good old Lexi to the rescue. Did I get a thank you? Of course not. Just, it's about time you helped me for once. And requests for money to go shopping, because she was dealing with a lot right now. Then 2020 hit like a freight train. The pandemic didn't just hurt my business. It killed it. That was 5 years ago now, and it feels like a lifetime. Projects got canceled overnight. Clients disappeared. I held on as long as I could, burning through my savings, maxing out credit cards, even taking a second mortgage on my house just to keep my employees paid. But it wasn't enough. I had to close the doors of Potter Architectural Design forever. And suddenly I was $400,000 in debt with no income coming in. I had to sell my beautiful house to pay off the debt. I sold my BMW too. The good news is I managed to pay off that $400,000 completely, and I still have some savings left over from the house sale. What my family doesn't know, what only Brian knows, is that things have actually turned around for me. About 2 years ago, my former clients started reaching out again. Word of mouth spread that I was freelancing, and suddenly I had more work than I could handle. I've even rehired my former employees, and we're all working remotely now. My business is thriving again, just in a different form. But when my family started treating me coldly the moment they learned I'd lost my business and was in debt, I decided not to tell them about my recovery. Brian advised me to keep it quiet, and honestly, I wanted to see how they'd treat me when they thought I had nothing to offer them. The answer? Like garbage. And somehow, that's when I became the family embarrassment. The phone calls stopped coming. The invitations dried up. When I suggested maybe I could move back into the house I bought for them, just temporarily, just until I got back on my feet, Mom said Tammy needed more room since she was going through a rough patch. Tammy, who hasn't worked a single day since she moved back in, who spends her days shopping with money that somehow always appears in her account. Only Brian still treats me like family. Only Brian remembers who I used to be, who I still am, underneath all this financial wreckage. So when Mom called tonight about Tammy's post-birthday dinner at Romano's, the most expensive Italian restaurant in town, I actually got excited for a second. Maybe this was it. Maybe they were ready to let me back into the family I'd built for them. But that cold, dismissive tone in her voice cut right through me. Bring something really nice for your sister. Not, we can't wait to see you. Not, we've missed you. Just a demand for an expensive gift, and the dial tone. I'm sitting here in my apartment, which is actually quite nice now that business has picked up, though they don't know that, staring at my healthy bank account, trying to figure out how much I'm willing to spend on something really nice for the woman who's taken my place in the house I bought. But you know what? I'm done being the quiet, accommodating Lexi who never asks questions. It's time to get some answers. I couldn't sleep that night. I kept replaying Mom's voice over and over, so cold, so distant. Like I was a telemarketer who'd interrupted her dinner instead of the daughter who'd given her everything. When had I become the outsider in my own family? I called Brian at 7 a.m. California time, knowing he'd already be up getting ready for work. He's always been an early bird, just like me. Hey, sis. His warm voice filled the silence of my apartment. And I almost started crying right there. It had been so long since someone sounded genuinely happy to hear from me. Brian, something's going on with them, and I need to know what it is. There was a long pause, and I could tell he was wrestling with something. Lex, I can't. I wish I could tell you everything, but I can't. What I can tell you is that you didn't do anything wrong. You're the most generous, loving person I know. My heart sank. So you do know something. Just know that I love you, okay? And whatever happens, remember that you have me. Always. Are you coming to the dinner? I asked. I don't know about that dinner. They didn't call me. I can't go there. I'm in the middle of a huge project at work and I can't get away. But even if I could, he trailed off. Even if you could, what? Nothing. Just, I love you, sis. I have to go, but we'll talk soon, okay? He replied. And then he was gone, leaving me with more questions than answers. After I hung up with Brian, I felt even more confused and hurt. He knew something. Something bad enough that he didn't want to tell me. Something that made him not want to attend Tammy's dinner, even though he could have gotten away from work if he really wanted to. 24 hours until Tammy's birthday dinner. 24 hours to decide if I was going to show up and pretend everything was fine, or if I was finally going to demand answers. The old Lexi would have bought an expensive gift she couldn't afford, shown up with a smile, and endured whatever treatment they dished out. But that old Lexi was broke. The old Lexi had given everything and gotten nothing in return. Maybe it was time for them to meet the new one. Romano's was exactly as pretentious as I remembered. Dim lighting, overpriced wine, and waiters who looked at you like they were doing you a favor by taking your order. I'd taken Mom and Dad here for their anniversary 2 years ago, back when dropping $200 on dinner didn't make me check my bank balance 3 times. I arrived right on time, carrying a gift bag with the nicest earrings. Not too cheap, not too expensive. Part of me hoped that maybe I'd been overthinking everything. Maybe tonight would be different. I was wrong. Happy birthday, Tammy, I said, approaching their table with what I hoped was a genuine smile. Thanks, she replied without looking up from her menu, already deep in conversation with Mom about some new boutique that had opened downtown. That was it. Thanks. Not "I'm so glad you could make it," or "it's been too long," or even "you look nice." Just a dismissive thanks that felt more like an obligation than gratitude. I sat down in the empty chair, the one positioned so I was facing the wall while the three of them could see the entire restaurant. It felt symbolic somehow. "So," I tried again, "how was your actual birthday yesterday, Tammy? Did you do anything special?" Yeah, she murmured, still not looking at me, then immediately launched into telling Mom about some dress she wanted to buy. Dad nodded along to their conversation about shopping and restaurants and weekend plans. All things that required money I couldn't contribute anymore. When the waiter came, they ordered without asking what I wanted, just assumed I'd figure it out myself. I ordered a mid-priced pasta and a glass of wine. I could afford it, but I was being more careful with money these days. The entire dinner was like watching my family through bulletproof glass. They talked and laughed and shared stories, and I sat there like a ghost at my own sister's birthday party. When I tried to join their conversation, I got one-word answers and nods before they pivoted back to talking among themselves. "Remember when we went to that resort in Maui?" Mom was saying to Tammy. "The one with the amazing spa?" "Oh my God, yes!" Tammy laughed. "That massage was incredible. We should go back there sometime." I had paid for that vacation. I had booked that resort, arranged the flights, made sure they had the best room with an ocean view. But sitting there listening to them reminisce, you'd think it had materialized out of thin air. "That sounds wonderful," I said. "I'm glad you both." "The tiramisu here is supposed to be amazing," Tammy interrupted, flagging down the waiter. That's when something inside me snapped. I wasn't just hurt anymore. I was angry, furious. How dare they invite me to sit here and be ignored like some unwanted charity case? How dare they treat me like a stranger when I was the reason they could afford to eat at places like this? When Dad paid the check, and with his executive salary, he could definitely afford dinners like this, they all stood up to leave. No one said goodbye to me. No one asked if I wanted to walk out with them. They just left. I sat there for a moment, watching my family disappear into the night without me, and made a decision that would change everything. I was done being the doormat. I was done accepting scraps of attention from people I'd given everything to. If they wanted to treat me like I didn't exist, then maybe it was time they remembered exactly who they were dealing with. I drove to their house, my house, and parked in the driveway. The lights were on in the kitchen, and I could see their silhouettes through the window. They were probably having wine and talking about what a wonderful evening they'd had. Well, the evening wasn't over yet. I still had my key. Of course I did. I'd never thought to ask for it back because I never imagined I'd need to sneak into my own house like a burglar. But as I turned it in the lock, that's exactly what I felt like. The voices from the kitchen were getting clearer as I walked down the hallway I'd designed myself. They were laughing, the sound of wine glasses clinking, and I caught fragments of conversation that made my blood boil. So embarrassing when people ask about her. At least Brian is doing well. Never thought she'd end up like this. I stopped just outside the kitchen doorway, hidden in the shadows, and listened to my family dissect my life like I was some cautionary tale. "I mean, I feel bad for her," Mom was saying, "but it's just awkward now. The Stevens asked about her at church last week, and what was I supposed to say? That my daughter lost everything and is living in some tiny apartment. She brought it on herself." Tammy's voice was sharp with wine and cruelty. "Always acting like she was so much better than everyone else with her fancy business and her big house. Well, look how that turned out." "Now, Tammy," Dad said, but his voice was gentle, indulgent, the way he used to talk to her when she was 5 and had broken something valuable. "No, Dad, I'm serious." She was always throwing money around like she was some kind of queen, making the rest of us feel small. And now she's this pathetic woman begging for scraps at dinner. "It's honestly embarrassing to be related to her," Tammy said, then she laughed. That's when I stepped into the light. "Embarrassing?" I said, and all three of them jumped like they'd seen a ghost. "Who exactly is the embarrassment here?" Tammy recovered first. that familiar sneer spreading across her face. Oh, look, the family disappointment decided to eavesdrop. Very classy, Lexi. Family disappointment, I laughed, but there was no humor in it. That's rich, coming from you. I think you should leave, Mom said quietly, but I was done taking orders from people living in my house. No, I don't think I will. I stepped further into the kitchen, and something in my voice made Dad actually take a step back. They were seeing a version of Lexi they'd never met before. The one who'd built a business from nothing. Who'd fought tooth and nail in a male-dominated industry. Who'd had to be ruthless to succeed. The nice, accommodating old Lexi had officially left the building. Let me get this straight, Tammy. You think I'm the family disappointment? The one who bought this house we're standing in because I wanted my family to be happy? Or are you talking about the daughter who ran away at 19 to marry a stranger, cheated on him with multiple guys, cost him thousands in a messy divorce, and then came crawling back to Mommy and Daddy to live off their charity? Tammy's face went white. How dare you? Oh, I'm just getting started. I was on a roll now, years of swallowed pride and silent hurt pouring out of me like a broken dam. Let me paint a picture for everyone here. I worked 16-hour days for 15 years building my business. You know what I did with the money? I bought Mom and Dad their dream house. I sent Brian to college. I funded family vacations that cost more than most people make in 6 months. I threw your expensive birthday parties, bought cars, picked up every dinner check, and never asked for a single thing in return. I turned to look at each of them. And you, Tammy? What did you contribute to this family? Oh, wait, I remember. You brought us a cheating scandal and a $30,000 alimony payment that I had to cover because you couldn't be bothered to get a job. That's enough, Dad said, but his voice was weak. No, Dad, it's not nearly enough. I was shaking now, with rage and hurt and 15 years of suppressed resentment. You want to know what's embarrassing? It's not that I lost my business during a global pandemic. It's that I gave my family everything I had, and the minute I couldn't be your personal ATM anymore, you threw me away like garbage. The silence in the kitchen was deafening. I made one mistake. I continued, my voice deadly quiet. I thought that love was unconditional. I thought that family meant something. But apparently your love came with a price tag. Tammy found her voice first. You're being dramatic. We never asked you to. Bullshit! The curse word hung in the air between us. Sweet, quiet Lexi didn't curse, but this wasn't that Lexi anymore. You never asked, but you sure as hell took everything I offered and then some. And now that the well is dry, suddenly I'm an embarrassment? Suddenly I'm not worthy of basic human decency at my own sister's birthday dinner. I looked around the kitchen. At the granite countertops I'd picked out, the custom cabinets I'd designed, the wine fridge I'd installed as a surprise for Dad. I looked at my parents. Here's what's going to happen, I said. You can keep living in the house I bought you. You can keep driving the cars I paid for. But don't you ever treat me like a stranger again. I'm not your charity case, and I'm sure as hell not your embarrassment. I'm the daughter who gave you everything, and if you can't respect that, then maybe it's time I stopped being your daughter altogether. Then I looked directly at Tammy. Actually, you know what? I've changed my mind. My voice was deadly calm now. Tammy, I want you to move out. I don't want you here anymore, and I am officially cutting you all off. This house is still under my name, in case you forgot. And Mom, Dad, as my final act of being your daughter, I will let you live in this house as long as you want. But if you don't agree with my decision, you're all free to leave so I can sell this house and be done with this toxic family once and for all. The silence was deafening. Oh, and Tammy? I smiled sweetly. I want that $30,000 back. You know, the alimony money you promised you'd pay back someday? Well, that someday is now. Tammy stared at me like I'd just slapped her. You can't just... Actually, I can and I will. This is my house! I turned to look at all three of them. Oh, and here's a news flash for you all. I'm not broke anymore. Remember that business I used to have? Well, I still have it. I was able to revive it 2 years ago. I just work from home now, and my former employees, I hired them all back. We're thriving. So tell me, am I still the family disappointment? Mom's wine glass slipped from her hand and shattered on the kitchen floor. What do you mean you have your business back? I mean exactly what I said, Mom. I've been successful again for 2 years now. But you all were so busy treating me like garbage that you never bothered to ask how I was actually doing. Dad finally found his voice, stammering. Lexi, sweetheart, if we had known. If you had known what, Dad? I cut him off. If you had known I had money again, you would have been nice to me. That's exactly my point. Your love comes with a price tag. That's not, we didn't mean. Mom was scrambling now, her face pale. Oh, but you did mean it. Every cold shoulder, every dismissive phone call, every time you made me feel like I was an embarrassment to this family. Well, congratulations, you got what you wanted. You don't have to be embarrassed by me anymore because I'm done with all of you. And with that, I turned and walked out of my own house, leaving them sitting in stunned silence around the kitchen table. My hands were shaking as I drove home, but for the first time in months, I felt like myself again. The old Lexi was officially dead, and the new one, she was just getting started. I drove home in a rage, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles were white. The look on their faces when I dropped that bombshell about my business. The shock, the scrambling, the pathetic attempts to backtrack. It should have felt satisfying. Instead, I just felt empty. The moment I got to my apartment, I called Brian. It's late, are you okay? His voice was instantly alert, concerned. I confronted them. I told them everything, about the business, about how they've been treating me, all of it. I said, my voice trembling with anger. Oh shit, how did that go? He asked. Brian, I need to ask you something, and I need the whole truth this time. Why did you really move to California? And don't tell me it was just for work. There was a long pause, and I could hear him taking a deep breath. You really want to know? I need to know, I said. Okay. His voice was quiet, resigned. You remember when I graduated college? I had 2 job offers, one here in Portland that was actually more money, and one in California that paid less but had better long-term prospects. I remember. You said you wanted the challenge of a new city. That was a lie. He paused. Lex, I chose California because I couldn't stand to watch what they were doing to you anymore. But more than that, I realized they expected me to be the next you. My stomach dropped. What do you mean? Mom and Dad started making comments about how now that I had a good job, I could help out the family like my big sister always did. They started hinting that I should move back home, maybe help with household expenses, take everyone on vacation, buy them things. And when I saw how they turned on you the moment you couldn't be their personal bank anymore, he trailed off. They wanted you to replace me. Exactly. So when I told them I was taking the California job, they lost their minds. Dad actually said, after everything this family has done for you, this is how you repay us? By abandoning your family? Mom cried and said, I was being selfish. That family comes first. What did you say to that? I reminded them that they didn't even want me to go to college in the first place. They told me to get a job right after high school, remember? It was you who supported me through college, not them. I said, what exactly did you do for me? You wanted me to skip college and start working. Lexi is the one who invested in my education and believed in me when you didn't. I felt sick. What did they do? They cut me off. His voice was bitter now. Said if I moved to California, I was no longer their son. Mom said I was breaking her heart, and Dad said I was ungrateful and selfish. But they still tell people you're successful. I've heard them bragging about you. Brian laughed, but he sounded hurt. Of course they do. They tell everyone about their successful son in California while refusing to speak to me for months at a time. It's all about appearances with them, Lex. Always has been. How long has it been since they actually called you? I asked. 8 months. The only time I hear from them is when they want to show off to someone. Then suddenly I get a call asking about my job so they can brag to whoever's listening. I was quiet for a moment, processing this. What about Tammy? What about her? He asked. Do they expect anything from her? Any contribution to the family? Brian snorted. Are you kidding? Tammy's the golden child. She can do no wrong. Mom babies her, Dad enables her, and she just takes and takes and takes. They've never expected a single thing from her except to exist and let them spoil her. I thought about Tammy at dinner tonight, how she'd sat there like a queen while they fawned over her. They made us compete for their love, I said quietly. Yeah, they did. And you won for a while because you had the most to give. But the moment you couldn't give anymore, they moved on to trying to make me the new provider. When I refused to play that game, they went back to babying Tammy because she's safe. She'll never challenge them or expect them to actually be good people. I kicked her out tonight, I said. Told her to move out of my house. Lex, you did the right thing. You can't buy love, and you can't fix people who only see you as an ATM. Trust me, I learned that the hard way. After we hung up, I sat in my apartment thinking about everything Brian had told me. Our parents had tried to turn him into me, the family provider, the one responsible for everyone else's happiness. And when he refused, they cut him off, but still used his success to make themselves look good. Meanwhile, Tammy got to be the eternal victim, never expected to give anything, always excused for her behavior. We were never their children. We were their retirement plan. 3 days later, my phone rang. It was Dad. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. I wanted to hear what excuse they'd come up with this time. Lexi, sweetheart, we need to talk. His voice was strained, tired. Do we? I kept my voice neutral. Please, can you come over? Your mother and we've been thinking about what you said. And Dad began. And you realize that losing the house I bought you would be inconvenient? I cut him off. There was a pause. It's not like that, he said. Isn't it? Let me guess. You finally did the math and figured out you can't actually afford to live anywhere else without my help, I replied. Lexi, he started. Save it, Dad. What happened to Tammy? I asked. Another pause. She's looking for a place. We told her she needs to find a job and move out, he admitted. I almost laughed. After 30 years of coddling her, they were finally cutting the cord because their own comfort was threatened. How did that go? I asked. Not well. His voice was heavy. She threw a fit, said we promised we'd always take care of her, but your mother and I realized we can't afford to keep enabling her, not if we want to keep our home. Our home. My home. And now you want to talk to me, I said. Yes, please, Lexi, come over tonight, he pleaded. When I arrived at the house that evening, the atmosphere was tense. Mom was in the kitchen, her eyes red from crying. Dad looked like he'd aged 5 years in 3 days. The wine glasses from our last confrontation had been replaced, but I could still see a tiny shard of glass in the corner that they'd missed. Thank you for coming, Mom said quietly. I didn't sit down. You have 15 minutes. Dad cleared his throat. Lexi, we know we made mistakes. Mistakes? I let out a harsh laugh. Dad, you didn't make mistakes. You made choices. For 5 years, you chose to treat me like garbage because I couldn't bankroll your lifestyle anymore. You chose to prioritize Tammy over the daughter who gave you everything. Those weren't mistakes. Those were deliberate decisions. We were hurt, Mom said, her voice barely above a whisper. When you lost your business, when you had to sell your house, we didn't know how to handle it. We felt helpless. So you decided to make me feel worse? To punish me for circumstances beyond my control? I shot back. We never meant, Mom started. You want to talk now? I interrupted, my voice rising. After 5 years of treating me like garbage? Let me guess. You suddenly realized that it would mean losing your precious house and having to face the real world. Well, here's the thing. I'm not your safety net anymore. You made your choice when you decided Tammy was more important than the daughter who gave you everything. The silence was deafening. We know we messed up, Dad said finally. We realize now that we spoiled the wrong child. Wrong child? My voice was ice cold. There shouldn't have been a right or wrong child to spoil. You should have loved all of us equally, supported all of us through hard times, and expected basic decency from all of us. But instead, you turned love into a transaction. Mom was crying openly now. We're sorry, Lexi. We're so sorry. Sorry doesn't erase 5 years of emotional abuse. Sorry doesn't make up for the nights I cried myself to sleep wondering what I did wrong. Sorry doesn't fix the damage you've done to our relationship, I said firmly. What can we do? Dad asked desperately. How can we fix this? I looked around the kitchen one more time, at the life I'd built for them, the dream I'd funded, the comfort I'd provided. You can't, I said simply. Some things can't be fixed, Dad. Some betrayals cut too deep. I turned to leave. Lexi, please, Mom called after me. We'll do anything. We'll kick Tammy out right now. You'll throw another daughter under the bus to save yourselves? That's exactly the problem, Mom. You still don't get it, I said as I walked away. I walked out of the house, and this time I knew I was never coming back. The emails and texts from Mom and Dad came daily at first, then weekly, then occasionally. Desperate apologies, old family photos, promises to change. I read them all, but never responded. Brian was getting them too. Maybe one day, he told me during one of our calls. But the wound is still too deep and fresh. He was right. They needed to prove they'd actually changed, not just promise they would, because they wanted something. Tammy, meanwhile, was learning what the real world looked like. Mom and Dad had given her $5,000 and 1 month to find a place and get a job. According to Brian, she'd called him crying about how horrible I was and how our parents had chosen the house over their own daughter. I told her it was time she learned to support herself without expecting people to save her, Brian said. That she's 30 years old and has never been responsible for anything. She hung up on me. Last I heard, she'd found a tiny studio apartment and was working as a cashier while waiting tables at night. For the first time in her life, she was actually earning her own money. As for me, I bought a beautiful office space and hired plus 6 more employees. My business was thriving beyond anything I'd ever imagined. I'd also started dating someone, a kind man who knew nothing about my family drama and loved me for who I was, not what I could provide. I was happy, genuinely, deeply happy. The house I'd bought my parents still stood there, a monument to my former life. But I was building something new now. A life where love didn't come with price tags, where family meant something more than financial transactions. I wasn't their daughter anymore. I wasn't their safety net or their ATM or their emotional caretaker. I was just Lexi. And finally, that was enough.
If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button and drop a comment below. Don't forget to follow for more content just like this. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time.